Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I'm April Honey. Today I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about my road to getting diagnosed with a genetic disease. So, I pretty much started out the way I hear a lot of people started. I was a very clumsy child. We didn't really know much about my family's medical history because it wasn't talked about in their days and there wasn't a lot of testing going on back then. So, everyone just thought I was just a little bit clumsy. My hands were really shaky. They put me in ballet in hopes that dancing would help me be able to be a little bit more coordinated. I was entered in like little child pageants and things like that. And um, pretty much everything was fine until I turned about, I would say 16. I started complaining about a lot of pain when I was in foster care, and they chalked it up to growing pains. What do I know about pain? Oh, I'm young, and all of this stuff, which is why, side note, I take my children's pain very seriously and I do get them looked at because I remember the amount of gaslighting that happened when I was a kid. Like, I don't know what pain is, all of that stuff. It was incredibly damaging because it ended up happening where I just didn't seek medical help. I didn't go to the doctor for anything other than having kids until I was about 30. When I was 30, I fell down the stairs, or maybe 31. Um, it was 2008. So maybe I had just turned 31. I fell down the stairs. When I fell down the stairs, I broke my leg. It was literally my foot was facing backwards. It was a complete spiral fracture. My foot spun all the way around and I ended up in the hospital, of course. And I had surgeries in order to repair it. I had a couple of surgeries while I was there. And I was bedridden for months afterwards. So, in that time, everything was supposed to heal and I was supposed to go back to normal, except that I was never able to lift my foot again, ever, ever, ever. And they just kept writing it off like, oh, nerves heal slow. They heal slower than anything else. You just have anxiety. Oh, it's because you're overweight and you had children. So it's just mom anxiety. I heard so many different things. And mind you, I was 120 pounds. I wasn't really overweight, but maybe at my heaviest at that point in my life, I was like maybe 135, but definitely not overweight. And I just was told it was because I gained weight having kids or whatever. So I set it aside again and I just dealt with it. I wore a lot of boots to kind of hold my foot in place when I was walking so I wouldn't trip over it. And I just kind of ignored it. But then it started moving to the other foot. And I was telling the doctor that this can't be contagious. A broken leg's not contagious. And it's been, at that point, it had been 5 or 6 years since I broke my leg. It was definitely not something that would move from one leg to the other. And I started not being able to lift my other foot either. And so they put me in leg braces, but then again, still was telling me that it was anxiety, and they gave me antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication. I told him I didn't feel anxious. I didn't feel like my mental health was having any issues at all. And I don't ever, ever diminish the effects of mental health. As you guys know, we have our own struggle with that as a family. I never, ever diminish the effects of mental health care or the need for medication for mental health. But personally, I didn't feel like I had anxiety that I was dealing with. And I didn't feel like I was depressed. And I didn't have thoughts that were sad. I didn't have trouble getting out of bed. I wasn't sleeping too much or too little. I didn't have any of the symptoms of anxiety or depression. But I was getting dizzy and I was tripping over my own feet. And again, they just kept putting me on different antidepressants. And I felt like the antidepressants were actually giving me anxiety and depression. So we got stationed in Hawaii, which I did talk to you guys about in, I would say it was 2017. I want to say. Gosh, I'm terrible with dates, y'all. I believe it was 2017. I probably should have checked this before I hit the record button, but we're just going to roll with 2017. My son was 4 and he is 10 now, 6 years ago. So that was what? He was 3.5 when we left and he turned 4 there. So yeah, about 7 years ago. Okay. So at the end of 2017, we moved to Hawaii. When I was in Hawaii, I started seeing a doctor because I was pregnant. And so my general practitioner that I got to see actually listened to me. He was like, wait a minute. Okay, you're right. It has to be a neurological issue. And he sent me to a neurologist. And this is after like 10, 15 years of being told there's nothing wrong with me and it's all in my head. And the neurologist took a one look at my feet and my legs and said, "Oh, you have CMT. I can already tell you have CMT, you have EDS, but let's take you for genetic testing just to make sure." Sure enough, the testing confirmed what I had. And I thought of all of the years that I wasted taking medications that I found out were neurotoxic to my condition and actually caused the decline of my condition faster. So they actually expedited the process of ending up in a wheelchair because I was still walking when I was trying to see help. And a lot of this could have been avoided by not putting me on those medications and by putting me in physical therapy. And I could have not gotten better. It's a progressive degenerative disease. I would have ended up in a wheelchair at any given point. But that point could have been 20 years into the future, and I could have still been walking for quite a while longer if I had been able to get somebody to actually pay attention and listen to me. Which brings me to the only advice that I took away from this is to make sure that you're advocating for yourself. Get a second, third opinion. I don't like doctors. I have an aversion to doctors. I had a lot of medical trauma, and I just don't throw that word around lightly, but I don't like doctors at all. I was told that when I was getting dizzy spells and I was having like issues with breathing and stuff, which I have POTS syndrome dysautonomia, that it was all in my head, that I just had anxiety. It was because I was a mother, because I had kids. It was always something except for what was actually wrong with me. And in all of this, my personality pretty much hasn't changed. Don't get me wrong. None of this, I don't have depression. It is what it was, and I'm pretty accepting about my life. I had a really rough childhood, and I went to years of therapy for that. And I've gotten to a place where I'm very accepting of things and of life just in general. And I've learned how to maintain my peace and my happiness with all of that. However, it is sometimes when you think about it, it is definitely a lesson. It's a lesson to do better with my kids, to teach them better, and to maybe spread that to you guys. Make sure you're getting second and third opinions. If something feels wrong, make sure that you are finding somebody who's willing to listen to you and who's willing to check. That is incredibly, incredibly important. And I hope that sharing with you what I went through will help you guys better be equipped to advocate for yourself. Advocate for yourself. Do research. I remember when I was diagnosed, my doctor told me, "Oh yeah, you have this, but go ahead and look up online at the CMT Foundation and the POTS, the neurological condition for of POTS, to go look those things up and um, find what symptoms you resonate with." So no, you don't self-diagnose. Don't ever do that. That's just terrible. But look up your symptoms and make sure you're accurately depicting what you're going through, and make sure that if you find a doctor who belittles what you're going through, doesn't want to listen because they know better than you, because they have a degree, make sure you go find somebody else. Like, I've been disabled my entire life, and now I know that um, all of those things that I was saying my entire life were completely valid. They were normal. They were normal for what my body should have been going through. And in essence, though, my family did do the right thing. They put me in more activities. They made me be more athletic and had me doing more physical activity, which actually was what was best for me at that time to build that muscle so that I could be walking and mobile longer, which they didn't know they were doing the right thing for me, but they did. And bless my grandmother for doing the right thing and encouraging all of the things that I wanted to do because she's amazing. And I'm really happy that I'm in the place that I'm in right now. And don't get me wrong, the wheelchair is not the worst thing that's ever happened to me. The wheelchair is fine. It's absolutely fine. But it would have been nice to know what I was getting myself into or what I was going through. It would have been lovely to have somebody validate that and be like, your pain is real. And it's okay to, be in pain and to know that this is what's going on with your body. It's okay to look into it. If there's something wrong with you, it's okay to look into it. My grandmother had a lot of pain in her, and she took a lot of falls in her life. She never knew what was wrong with her ever. They always just chalked it up to something. They just said she was crippled, she was disabled, she never walked right, and nobody ever knew or bothered to check what was wrong with her. But it probably came from that side of the family, given the way she walked and everything, and her gait, and all of the things that I saw her going through. It probably came from that side of the family, just looking back through the lens that I have right now. Make sure that you are advocating for yourself. Be your best advocate and don't let it get you down and don't let anything push you around. It just goes to show that you need to be your own best advocate. Be your own best friend. Love yourself. If you're struggling with mental issues due to your disability, make sure you get help, get therapy. Trust me, it really does help. Normalize therapy. Honestly, we go through things. We live in a world where almost everything is traumatic and triggering, and so many people are upset about something. Just get help. Get help. There are plenty of resources for you to find somebody to talk to. Um, just find what works for you and advocate for yourself. That's really all I can say for this. That is my story with getting medically diagnosed with CMT, EDS, and POTS syndrome. Hopefully, your guys' stories are much shorter than mine. I hope you guys are having an amazing day wherever you are. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I know you can be absolutely anywhere on the internet and you chose to hang out with me. I appreciate you so much for that. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.